Hello and welcome to Brewers Daily, part of the Fan Arch Podcast Network. I'm your host, Dave Gasper. Got some stuff to get to here on a Friday show. The City Connects are out. We got to talk about those. Get to some of your comments on the new jerseys that have certainly gotten a lot of people talking here over the past day since they got dropped on Thursday morning. Also, we got some news with the Brewers rotation and the pitching staff to talk about as well. The Brewers have released their probable pitchers for the upcoming series starting tonight against the Washington Nationals. And surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, Brandon Sproat is not included in those probable starters for this series. Now, if we were going by the regular rotation, how it should have gone, Brandon Sproat would have been in here and would have been pitching in this series, but the Brewers have decided not to put Brandon Sproat in this series. Instead, we got Chad Patrick going tonight here against Jake Irvin of the Nats. And then on Saturday, Kyle Harrison gets bumped up an extra day here, and he will face off against Foster Griffin on Saturday. And then on Sunday, it is Brandon Woodruff against Zach Littell. So no Brandon Sproat for this. Now, perhaps he's just being moved back a couple of days to face the Toronto Blue Jays instead. Maybe there's something else going on here. Maybe he's getting demoted from the rotation. Maybe he's injured. Who knows? We won't know. We won't find out until we get a chance to talk to Pat Murphy coming up ahead of Friday's game here. So that is going to be one of the first questions that we're going to have for him in terms of what's going on with Brandon Sproat. Is there an injury? Is it the performance? Is it something else? What could be happening here in terms of why the Brewers have decided to skip Brandon Sproat in the rotation here? If it is performance, I mean, it certainly would be warranted based on how his first couple of outings have gone. You'd think maybe he'd get a little bit longer of a leash, but as of now, there's really kind of no knowledge as to what it could be. I could certainly see multiple different directions that the Brewers would go with it, but certainly a disappointing start to the year for Brandon Sproat. A lot of high hopes for him and what he could be in this rotation, but not everyone hits the ground running right out of the gate. It seems like Kyle Harrison has so far. Chad Patrick has done pretty well so far. Jacob Misiorowski has pitched well so far, with the exception of the final three batters there against Boston. So, yeah, it's you're not going to have a 100% success rate, and development isn't always linear. I mean, Brandon Sproat had just 4 big league outings last year, 4 big league starts, so he certainly could use perhaps some more development time if the Brewers want to see it that way. They have not made a roster move with Brandon Sproat yet, but still, there could be some. There's certainly going to be something to monitor here in terms of why the Brewers are not going to have Brandon Sproat pitch in this series. So we'll get answers from Pat Murphy about that during his pregame availability here on Friday. Once we do, I'll have that up on my Twitter account at dgasper24. So be sure to follow me there if you aren't already, and so you can get some of those real-time updates for some of the stuff going on over the weekend here. The Brewers have also made they have made an actual roster move here with the pitching staff. Shane Drowan has been optioned back to AAA Nashville after his start to end that Boston Red Sox series. The start did not go well, but it was kind of a spot start to come in to give Chad Patrick a little bit of extra time after the rain out in Kansas City. It gave him, it would have only been 3 days rest that he would have had for that start in Boston. So it's like, no, let's get him back on more regular rest. And they called up Shane Drowan for that spot start. And now he gets sent back down, and he's going to be pitching on a more regular basis, still in that rotation down there for AAA Nashville, and still going to be ready when called upon, whenever that may be. The Brewers have not yet announced a corresponding roster move. Again, we should see that be coming out here today, as things get going, and as we'll hear from Murph and find out who that is and why they made the decision on who it is. Could it be Robert Gasser? Could it be a Coleman Crow? Could it be a Logan Henderson? There's a couple of different ways that they could go with it, certainly. So we shall see what they end up doing, but Shane Drowan, we do know, is going to be down back in AAA Nashville. So he gets called up for a couple of days, gets to make his MLB debut. Now he goes back down, armed with the learning experience that he had there in Boston, where things just really kind of went sideways on him, lost command there for a little bit. So, you live, you learn, and you try and be better next time around. So he's going to take that experience with him and try and be better for the next go around. So the Brewers have another player that's going to be coming up. They got a second half of this transaction to happen today. So it's going to be a bit of a newsy day here for the Brewers, but we don't know what exactly that's all going to be quite yet. But it's also been newsy here as we have gotten the brand new City Connects for the Milwaukee Brewers. The leaks were correct. It is the Wisco jersey with the blue and the orange and the color gradient things that they had in that leaked logo. So this is not again really a surprise. Those leaks have generally always been pretty accurate, and it's been kind of some mixed reactions for the City Connects. I'll say my favorite part of it is absolutely the fishing bobber logo with the baseball seams going across it. Very similar to the tailgate grill patch that they had for the last City Connects. And also that is one that I feel like should be on a hat. Putting that kind of logo on a hat, you're just going to make so much money. Like you're going to sell so many of those hats. But still, the fishing bobber logo is cool. That they got Barrelman brought into it as well with the Wisconsin silhouette behind him. I think that's a really cool logo. But the Wisco across the front. Look, I don't know about you, but I really haven't heard anyone from Wisconsin ever call the state of Wisconsin Wisco or refer to the state as Wisco. You sometimes hear, for those in the Milwaukee area, you hear Wisconsin Lutheran High School get referred to as Wisco, but that's really like it. Or Wisconsin Lutheran College, even then that's usually WLC. No one really calls it Wisco. I don't know if that's like an outsider thing, if that's a California, New York thing, they refer to Wisconsin as Wisco or look at it that way, but I have not heard that very much. That has not been a common thing, but I get that they wanted to incorporate the state as part of it. It's not just the city's team, it's the state's team. This kind of incorporates not just Milwaukee, but the entire state. I get that. They got the color gradient thing representing kind of like the sunsets over the water, which is kind of cool, I guess. They got some other things in there that they got like the wheats, kind of the wheat stuff in some of the seams, which is cool looking. But the alternate logos, the patches, I think are kind of the cool one. The Barrelman on one side, the fishing bobber logo on the other. I mean, those are really cool. Those are really nice. But in terms of as a jersey itself, it's kind of like underwhelming to me. I mean, I think the last City Connects were better. The only issue I had was the hat and that jumbled up mess of a logo. But other than that, I thought those jerseys looked really, really good. These look not quite as good, in my opinion. That they're okay. They're not totally awful, but I'm not super excited about them as much either. As I was kind of hoping they would be. I was actually kind of hoping they would just stick with the previous City Connect logo. I thought those were pretty popular, largely, but I guess Nike just wants to keep running through and making new jerseys every couple of years. So they make the change, just something new to incorporate with all of it. And they're going to be wearing these jerseys all weekend here. They announced 8 different teams getting new City Connects this year. The Brewers, they're kind of like middle of the pack in terms of what we're seeing from most people thinking for how these jerseys were going to look. But we're going to get a very good look at them this first weekend here against the Nationals. So we'll see kind of how it looks when they play in them. It's one thing to have the social media graphics and the pictures and the videos, seeing guys in them. It's another thing to see the team actually play in them. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm still just kind of like, I'm not quite as excited about it as I was hoping to be with the new City Connects. The color scheme, I'm just like like, I get what they were going for, but I just don't feel like it fits the Brewers, very well. Like, I still feel like it's got to fit the team somewhat. And I'm not quite sure that they did that. So, but I'm not the only one with thoughts and opinions on these new City Connects here for the Brewers. You guys have some as well. I asked you on yesterday's video to leave some comments below. Just kind of let me know your thoughts on the City Connects as they got dropped on Thursday morning. So, a couple of comments on that to roll through from Deadman96 TV. Absolutely love the new City Connect jerseys, 100%. Even the past ones are better, but that doesn't make the new ones bad. Okay, yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I agree with you that the previous ones were better. Doesn't necessarily mean these are bad, but yeah, I'm just not quite as excited about it as I was the other ones. When I saw those come through, I'm like, those were clean. Like, those look good, and they look like Brewers jerseys. They look like baseball jerseys. These, I'm not quite as excited about it. Maybe not as bad as maybe I'm saying, but definitely not quite as good as the previous one. And then Tanner Ordle 6450 here. The new jerseys are okay. They're growing on me after seeing some of the close-ups and kind of the vibrant framing. I think they're kind of cool. All right, yeah, there we go. There's some positivity for these jerseys, and that's what part of it too is. I think is just getting to see them, getting to see more of them. It kind of grows on you a little bit more as you see them over time. Like the initial reaction to jerseys or whatever else, any sort of like reveals like this, the initial reaction generally is like a lot more negative. And like over time, as people see it, it's like, okay, you know what? Maybe this really isn't as bad. Maybe we overreacted. I know, crazy thought that the internet may overreact sometimes to things, and things aren't quite as bad as the internet may make them seem. I know it is shocking, it is stunning, but it does happen sometimes. So, the Brewers got these new jerseys. They'll be rolling them out here all weekend. The Brewers are also going to be doing, they're going to be doing like a supper club theme for this like homestand as well that they're opening up for this entire homestand here, which is also really kind of exciting as well, just to kind of look at, because it means there's going to be a lot of brandy old fashioned. Brandy old fashioned's getting consumed at the ballpark, but we got City Connect Supper Club Fridays now, where because they're also trying to incorporate that as part of the theme here, kind of like the up north, going on a lake, rivers, forest kind of thing. And when you go up north, there's supper clubs up there, and so they're going to have a supper club menu that they're going to have at a pop-up stand at the ballpark on Fridays this year and all weekend this weekend. But it's going to have your classic brandy old fashioned, prime rib grilled cheese sandwich, meatloaf sandwich, walleye served with potato pancakes and applesauce. God, I'm just getting hungry thinking about it. Brandy old fashioned cheesecake parfait. All this sort of stuff. They also got a new specialty cocktail called the Bobber, which will be served in like a fishing bobber shaped glass, which is kind of cool. So that seems like a lot of fun. So yeah, you got that. That's going to be at the third base ward, Barrel Bars, the Drink Wisconsinably Bar, 3rd Street Market Hall Annex Bar, Loge Level Sky Bar, Terrace Bar. So they're going to have this all throughout the ballpark. That drink and Supper Club Fridays. So that's going to be a whole lot of fun. And they're going to have that for that entire series here against the Nationals. So that's going to be a lot of fun. But just kind of incorporating all that kind of local themes, because being in Wisconsin, supper clubs are kind of a big part of the deal here in the States. And, other states don't necessarily have that. But it makes it fun. It adds to it, just kind of being able to incorporate these different things. The Brewers have done a great job with trying to tie all those things in over the years. And so if these new jerseys mean that we're going to have Supper Club Fridays and brandy old fashions at the ballpark, sign me up, okay? Because that sounds like a good deal to me. But the Brewers will have the Washington Nationals in town all weekend here, and no Brandon Sproat a part of it. But we'll get more details as to who the new pitcher is going to be, what's going on with Brandon Sproat, and hopefully the Brewers can get back to winning a series here and get back to winning, being back at home after they had a 5-1 homestand to start the season. Hopefully they can maybe have another 5-1 homestand here as well as they take on the Nationals and then the Toronto Blue Jays. So that's going to be a lot of fun, and we'll break it all down for the series against the Nats on Monday when we return. So be sure to subscribe to Brewers Daily, get notified every single time a new episode drops. Follow me on Twitter at dgasper24. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you again next time for another episode of Brewers Daily.